4 years, people wondered how the world's most fearless action star could run toward danger yet never walk toward his own daughter. And now at 19, Suri, born Suri Cruise, now Suri Noel Holmes, has finally broken her silence, not through interviews, but through the life she has chosen to build far from her father's shadow. Her story begins on April 18, 2006, in a silent delivery room at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, where Katie Holmes endured a Scientology-mandated silent birth under the watch of stern men in black suits, a moment that became the first memory Suri never asked for. Her earliest years were painted as a perfect Hollywood dream: red carpets, magazine covers, security teams. But behind those glossy images, cracks were forming as Katie grew increasingly monitored and controlled by Scientology associates, while her parents and friends worried about the growing influence surrounding her. Suri didn't see any of this. She only knew warm movie nights and her father's larger-than-life presence, until she turned 6, the footsteps faded, and her world suddenly split in two. In June 2012, Katie filed for divorce with military-level precision while Tom was out of the country, fighting for one thing above all: the right to raise Suri outside Scientology. Just 11 days later the divorce was finalized, and Katie and Suri slipped out of Los Angeles like ghosts, beginning again in New York City. For Suri, that move marked the beginning of growing up with an invisible father, a man she saw everywhere except in her life. Birthdays passed without calls, newspapers and theaters showed his face while she walked the streets unnoticed, and every year the silence grew heavier. She watched her friends run into their father's arms while she quietly stood alone, learning independence out of necessity, riding the subway by herself, finishing school projects alone, and carrying the ache of abandonment without ever learning to hate the man she once adored. By 14, she began searching for answers the adults around her never explained, uncovering stories of Scientology rules, discipline, and the painful possibility that relationships could be severed if one person stepped outside the organization. She recognized herself in those stories, not as a threat, but as collateral, and understood for the first time that her father's distance might not be an accident, but a boundary he would not cross. At 15, she found her mother quietly crying over an article about Tom's newest blockbuster, and the truth between them became silently mutual. Katie had carried both roles, mother and emotional protector, for years. By 18, Suri was ready to claim her own truth. In her college essays she wrote, "Sometimes we don't grow up with love. We grow up with the space that love leaves behind," a sentence that said everything without mentioning his name. And on May 17, 2024, she made the quiet, powerful decision to legally change her name to Suri Noel Holmes, choosing her mother's middle name as a tribute to the woman who had walked through every storm beside her. It wasn't rebellion, it was freedom. Her new name appeared at her high school graduation, in her performance cast lists, and later on her acceptance documents for Carnegie Mellon University, where she began studying fashion and finally living life on her own terms. Katie visited often, carrying boxes into her dorm with grateful hands, proud of the daughter who survived fame, abandonment, and years of silence with grace. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise continued scaling skyscrapers and filming high-risk blockbusters, but never once scaled the distance between himself and his daughter. Insiders claim he continues to pay expenses as agreed, but there have been no visits, no calls, no attempts to reconnect in over a decade. And now, at 19, Suri no longer waits at the doorway of memory for footsteps she knows will never come. She steps into adulthood with confidence, carrying the name she chose and the truth she finally owns. Her story leaves us with one question. In her place, would you reach out again, or would you finally let go? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more untold stories.